Just a quick one before we get into this episode. If you're in the UK and you use supplements, I'd highly recommend checking out Reflex Nutrition, where they're giving up to 40% on all their range if you use the code PTRNT at checkout. I've been using Reflex for nearly a decade, with their microwave being one of my favorite whey proteins. It's grass-fed, hormone-free, and digests so well compared to most on the market. Check out their full supplement range, including all your transformation basics and plant-based alternatives on reflexnutrition.com and use the code PTRNT at checkout for up to 40% off. It's not long left now until the new book, Transform Your Body, Transform Your Life, is released. Sunday, 24th of May is the big day, and I can't wait for you to get your copy. Make sure you subscribe to our email list and social media for updates on book bonuses, previews, competitions, and giveaways. Exciting times ahead. On today's episode of RNT Fitness Radio, I'm joined by one of my closest friends, Dhinil Patel, who joined me to talk all about business and specifically how his own business is doing during the Covid-19 pandemic. Dhinil was one of my first clients close to 10 years ago, and he was one of my first guinea pigs for many of my early experimentations on all things fitness. In this episode, we dive deep into his journey over the past decade and how the physical has been the vehicle for the greater good in his life, while forming the underpinning for allowing him to succeed in his business, relationships, and life overall. I was in tears of laughter at one point in this episode, and I can't wait for you to listen.
How are you feeling about the beard? I should ask you first. How are you feeling about it?
The beard is still a bit scruffy, mate.
But what's the plan? Like, how do you make it look like, like Shams is like neat. It's like...
Yeah, but the thing is, I haven't had it trimmed in ages. That's the problem. It's been 4 weeks.
But do you have the density of hair? Do you have enough hair?
I don't think it looks like Shams, but if it's tidy, it looks good. But right now, it just makes me look tired and ill, right?
But you want it to come down long, or you want it to be like
this? This is enough, yeah.
There's a guy in the NBA. His name is James Harden. Have you heard his name before?
No, I'm not. No.
So his nickname is the Beard. So you should check him out. Maybe his would suit you.
Is it good?
It's different. It's big. It's a big beard though. But if it's like your hair where it's coming down like this, then maybe it works.
When are you gonna grow yours?
Bro, I can't grow one. Like mine, I probably can, but it's like I've never done it. And if I do it a little bit, my inclination is to shave straight away.
Yeah, fair enough. So how's life during Corona and COVID?
Everything's fine, man. It's actually, I don't mean to take it in like in a wrong way, but it's been a little like, because obviously I don't know anyone that's directly affected. My parents work in the NHS, obviously they are. But it's nice to have like a different modality of life, right? Like everything has like paused a little bit for now, right? Mm. And it gives you time to think about things that you've thought about for a long time, but have never had the chance to enact or act upon. And to do that now is quite a nice, like it's a reset. It feels a little bit like a reset, Absolutely. Because the thing is, we're in the situation that we're forced to be in a position that we think about these other things, whether it's through my work or through personal life or through anything else. It's just, it's nice. And fortunately, I'm not in that situation where like I have like a very specific business it's a business that's definitely affected by it in a big way. But we're fortunate that we're in a position where we have some hedge to the situation, and we're not in a cash flow difficult position or anything like that. So we're okay. And so far, just been riding the wave. What else can you do? What else can anyone do at the moment, right?
Yeah. What are you strategizing about? What have you had time to think about that you wouldn't have otherwise been thinking about?
So a lot of these strategic objectives and really basic things like just the accuracy of our budget that we forecasted at the beginning of the year. Yeah. Our strategic sales plan, the new brands. So we have 2 new brands coming on board in the middle of the year. And we hadn't really had the time because, for us, our business cycle through the year, it's like a hockey stick. So the end of the year becomes very, very active. And because of the way that the business has been going, it's been very nonstop. We haven't had the chance to put really accurate or specific plans in place. So this has given us the opportunity to take a step back and really focus on those things. So specifically, really going into our sales plan into the details, right? and figuring out the intricacies where we've maybe forecasted wrongly. We've had a lot of problems with regards to managing our logistics, managing our inventory this year. And we've had a few meetings over the last couple of weeks to figure out how we're going to sort this out now, because it's to do with our warehouse and our own office. So it's something we can plan for now. And then something that we chatted about briefly last week is about this procurement project. So everything that's non-organic to the business now. So things like bringing on new brands into our portfolio, right? So we're an FMCG premium distribution company. So the new brands that we bring into our portfolio, since we started, it's just been about people in my personal network or people that I meet through connections or people that I know, having conversations with those people to bring on new brands. Now we've been able to spend a couple of weeks to really break it down into a process. And our mutual friend who helps us with the strategic things has helped me with that as well. So it's really about, it's just long-term strategic work, because our day-to-day activities from a B2B perspective, so selling our brands to our stores, has gone out the window. I don't know if that answers your question, but...
Absolutely. So you're saying your B2B has stopped completely, you're on pause, but your B2C is thriving?
No, so basically our business, 80% of the business comes through selling our products to stores, right? So points of sale.
Sorry, Dhinil.
So those points of sale can vary.
Just before you go into this, it'll be good for the listeners to understand what business you're talking about. So do you want to give a quick background as to what the business is?
Yeah, sure, of course, yeah. So my company, we can define ourselves as a premium FMCG distribution company. So basically, we have exclusive distribution agreements with brands in beauty care, hair care, dental care, bath and body from around the world. We import these brands from around the world. And these are usually brands that have a great equity and know-how in their own market. But they're looking at this stage in their growth, they're looking to introduce their products into new international markets. And obviously, because London is such a cosmopolitan center in the world, London is one of those places that those brands in those categories would like to be. So we basically approach these companies, or they approach us, and we offer them the opportunity to distribute their brand. So for product placement, for logistics, for direct online selling into the UK market. So basically, the brands that we import, we sell to Harrods, Selfridges, Whole Foods, Boots, direct to our consumer through our own websites. And we basically act as those brands' arm in a new country, and the new country being either the UK or Europe, or depending on the distribution agreement that we have with them.
Makes sense. So can you just go back to what we were talking about before?
Yeah, sure. So obviously now, we ourselves are not retail. Well, we're retailers, we're e-retailers. So 20% of our business is B2C, and B2C means we sell directly to the customer through our own online channels, through our website. The large segment of the business, which is 80%, is the B2B business. So that is basically the brands that we represent, selling them to points of sale in the UK market. So those points of sale could be, for us, we focus on the luxury segment. So we sell these brands to Harrods, to Selfridges, Harvey Nichols, Boots, Whole Foods supermarkets, a number of premium flagship spas in the UK, mostly focused on London. And the problem at the moment is that because of what's happening with this coronavirus, all those retail locations are now closed. That came into law a few weeks back now. Because we're a distribution company, we still can run the B2C component of our business. So our logistics team is still working at the office, our office and logistics team. And the B2C part of our business has really exploded in the last couple of weeks, because people are obviously at home. There's no opportunity for them to go to stores or to department stores or to any retailers to go and buy any of their goods. So all that business now is coming to either our personal website or the e-commerce points of sale that we sell to. We have a good portion of our staff are predicated, and their responsibility entirely entails the B2B side of the business. So for example, they may be account managers or sales managers or training managers whose responsibility is to go on the road in London and to look after these stores, spas, salons, department stores that we sell our products to. So they're the relationship management side of our business. All of those people basically don't have work right now. So what we've used the time to do, they're all working from home. But they all, as well as their sales target from selling to those stores, they do have other qualitative metrics as part of their role. And this pause in the time of their primary objective for their role has been the opportunity to go back to those qualitative metrics, those strategic parts of their role, and go into details with those things. So does that give you an understanding? Maybe I'm not being overly clear.
It makes sense. I mean, it's you're essentially reshuffling people around and moving the metrics for the time being. What's really interesting is you talked about some of these roles are involved with going to stores, dealing with clients on the high street or in premium places. What do you think the future of the high street is? And especially some of these bigger brands that you're dealing with, like Harrods, Selfridges, and then even more the slightly less premium, such as Boots. Do you think there's going to be a future of bricks and mortar, or do you think this is going to really wake them up to thinking more has to be pushed online?
It's kind of this is the huge question facing the industry, and not just my industry, but the retail industry as a whole now. And it's very interesting to talk about. I think a lot of people have this idea that everything is going to go D2C, which is direct to consumer. But what we're finding is I'm not sure that's entirely the case, right? So one thing I do think is for sure dead in the future is simple retail stores that offer nothing else to the customer than going to this point of sale or this store and buying a product and then walking away, right? Because what those type of stores are aiming to do is that, for example, providing convenience or price, right? Now, convenience and price is best served by the internet, right? You're not going to ever get a better service, price, quality of delivery than being able to go on your laptop at home, order something off Amazon Prime, and you'll get something the next day, right? Or through a website of your choice. Like in our industry, I Feel Unique, Cult Beauty, the Hot Beauty, things like this, right? But what still will remain, I think, in the future is experiential retail. So experiential retail is any type of retail that offers an additional service to customers that they cannot necessarily get from an e-shop, right? Or through a website. So we're fortunate in this, that a lot of our retail locations that we sell to are experiential doors, right? So places like Harrods, Selfridges are a great example, because you think about the customer that goes to Harrods, Selfridges, maybe to a lesser extent, Harvey Nichols or Liberty's, they go, they don't necessarily go just to buy a good at the earliest convenience and the best price, right? If you go to those places, you're going to pay probably a 20%, 10% premium, but they're going for the experience of going to those stores. It's almost like it's a visit. It can be a tourist location. It's a visit that they feel could be a social interaction with their friends to go to these stores. Those stores will also provide value in that they're not just the point of sale where they can buy their goods. There'll be food attached. There'll be great experiences where they can, Harrods and Selfridges always have events running, and they have different halls that people can go to. So that's an example of a retailer, right? That basically adds more value than just giving the product to buy or to sell.
Yeah.
And for that reason, that type of retail won't die. And the figures over the last few years have shown that, right? So Harrods and Selfridges, I know a lot of retail locations are dying, right? Like, say, for example, John Lewis or BHS and things like this. But Harrods and Selfridges numbers have been consistently growing over the last 10 years. You contrast that, for example, with retail locations like John Lewis and BHS and maybe Next and Topshop and things like this. And those retailers, their basic key KPI from the beginning, what they were known for is about price, convenience, and quick in and out shopping, right? That's something that will die because it's going to go to the internet. Because as I said before, no one can do that better than Amazon can do, than a direct to consumer website can do, for example. The other part of this as well is that a lot of the retailers that we sell to also are spas, salons, things like this. What a spa offers in terms of, for example, treatments or procedures and things like this, a hair salon, for example, they offer to cut hair, to have treatments like this done. That cannot be serviced by online. So that's still experiential retail that people will continue to go to. Having said that, the best, with my industry specifically, so a lot of our business is comprised by beauty goods, right? high-end beauty goods. And a lot of people do have this impression that this business will entirely go online. But the one thing is that you have to think about the consumer for these type of goods, for my type of goods, right? Most of them are women. Most of them are people that have a great deal of enthusiasm, and they take interest and pride in being able to go out and shop for their goods, right? And because the good that we work with are tactile goods, right? They're, for example, creams or lotions or skincare products that you have to try. They're three-dimensional goods. So the consumer is more likely to want to try these things, to be able to see how the assortment fits on the shelf next to its competitors before making a purchase. For sure, once they've decided which brand they like, right? Once they've gone into store, experience with in the retail location, spoken to the account managers and the people that are selling the goods, maybe then after that, they'll be able to identify which brands are best suited to them, or what suits their lifestyle, what suits their needs specifically, once they've had the chance to be sold to, for example, by staff like ours that go into the stores to sell those products. But up until that point, there's still value to going to store. And that's why a big buzzword in our industry, in the retail industry, is this omni-channel presence. And that basically means that it's important not for a brand not to have just one point of contact with their customer. So they can't just be online, they can't just be in store, they can't just be in print advertising, and they can't just be on social media, for example. They have to cover all points, right? Which means that the customer can reach the brand from a number of different touch points, a number of different areas, right? And for example, that's something that's been a benefit for us now, because in this situation where, for example, our customers can't go to our stores to necessarily buy our goods, they can at the moment still touch through social media, or they can go through our website and buy. And of course, we've benefited in the immediate short term whilst the stores are being closed for this increase in BTC sales. But saying all that, the retail industry, I don't think it's going to go completely online. Maybe the high street will shrink to only those retailers that offer above average value to their customers. So they have to offer something more than just being the equivalent of an e-shop on the high street. It'll be more condensed, and obviously these e-sites will continue to grow. Amazon, of course, will continue to grow, but I don't think it's going to die at all. No, because there's still an element of people wanting to go to store to see something in a three-dimensional space. And for especially ladies, I think, not to stereotype at all, but there is a social element to shopping, to going on the high street, that I think can't be lost. And that's something that I see, because most of my staff are ladies. Most of my staff are ladies. Most of the people that shop for our products are ladies. And that's always the feedback we get. So when people come to our website, or people send us direct emails and saying, where can I buy your product, for example, in the UK, they may have known about it very well from China or Russia or any of US, or any of the markets that we're in. We realized very early on that it's not a good enough, it's not necessarily always the right thing to do to say, look, you can buy directly from our e-shop or through our website. It's better to give them a point of sale. That tends to be what they prefer to be directed to.
Interesting. What about shopping centers? Do you think the social element will keep the shopping centers alive?
I think I'll revert to my previous point. So if you look at those shopping centers, we don't have shopping centers or malls in the same way that they, for example, have in US, right? Where you have these huge, like 2 kilometer, 3 kilometer wide malls. Like I know we have Westfields and things like that, but I'll take a narrow example. So I'll think about like department stores, which is our equivalent of like the wider area of shopping here, right? So again, Harrods, Selfridges, maybe Harvey Nichols to an extent, Liberties, places like this that offer a customer more value than just, they offer something above and beyond what an e-shop could value, by experience, by quality of service, by additional services that they can experience in the same place. Those retailers, I don't think, will die. If you look at the retailers whose prime objective, like John Lewis, for example, going back to that point, John Lewis, for example, have always been a price matching store. So their focus has always been to say we'll offer the cheapest good. And if a customer comes to us and say that I can buy this good from another location at the same price, they will drop the price. Those stores that compete purely on price and convenience, I don't think will survive. But the retailers that focus on experience, that focus on providing a value to the customer that they cannot get from pure to online, I think they'll continue to thrive.
I think that sentiment applies across the board in any industry. If you're competing on price in this day and age, you're going to go, this outbreak will drive you out of business because value is going to be more important than ever.
And also, of course, like since the dawn of the internet, when you're competing with price, you're competing with the whole world.
Yeah.
And the probability that you're going to be able to compete with the whole world on price, if you, for example, don't have a monopoly in what you're providing or what service you're providing, it's going to be very difficult, right?
Yeah, it's impossible. You're fighting a losing battle.
Yeah.
What is the industry sentiment behind the scenes? Like you're involved in a lot of these networking events. What is the general consensus of what's happening for your industry?
There's a lot of things being talked about at the same time. The most immediate thing that you probably see in the news most often is this massive issue about this staff layoffs, right? So because retail outlets are all closed and they're closed for the foreseeable future, and there doesn't seem to be an end in sight, is first of all, the biggest thing in the news headlines is that people are going to get laid off, right? Because a lot of these businesses are not necessarily the most cash flow efficient businesses, retail locations, or they rely on very strong cash flow. So that's a big thing. In terms of from my side, our industry, so the beauty industry, the premium FMCG industry, one thing that we're very fortunate about is that our sales revenue, if you look at our turnover through the year, it really follows a hockey stick, right? So our sales are pretty skewed towards the latter part of the year. So Q3 to Q4, so from the beginning of summer, when all the tourists come in and people start to shop on the streets, until the end of the year where you have the gifting times, Christmas time, Black Friday, that's when our sales are strongest. The beginning of the year is always strong. So the beginning of Q1 is always relatively strong from us because it comes when all the discounts are available, where all the price promotions are available, right? The low time for us is always February, March time.
Okay.
So in a very purely selfish way, it couldn't really have happened a more, like, I can't really say it. It's wrong to say it couldn't have happened at a better time, but we're very fortunate about the time. The other thing is going back to this question of the industry as a whole, right? So my business, and my business is a distribution business, but retail businesses are very, very reliant on strong cash flow to making sure that the inventory is turning very high through their stores. And that's because a lot of them have very high fixed costs, right? And for that very particular reason, I think that we may see a lot of retail locations, a lot of people working in this industry maybe suffer in the next coming months. Obviously, we've been very fortunate to see that the government has stepped in and said that they're going to help with payroll and a number of different key measures in the next couple of months. It's still completely unclear about how this is going to happen, but that's something that is going to be, I think it's going to be something that's going to be very damaging for the industry as a whole. But we just can't see. Let's see what happens on the other side. But what comes out the other side will be going back to what we were saying before, that the businesses, I think the businesses that will survive this period will really come out stronger because they'll have a stronger sense of unity. They'll have a stronger sense of connection with their customers. A lot of businesses in this space have taken initiatives that to appeal in the mind of the customer, like taking social initiatives, like saying we are going to be providing these things as complimentary. So, for example, for my business, we took initiative over since the outbreak of the coronavirus, that with every single product that we send out on a B2C basis, we're going to send out a couple of individual SKUs of hand sanitizer with the product. And that's because hand sanitizer is another product that we have in our portfolio.
Oh, wow.
So it's like if you're able to get through this difficult time, I'm sure that the businesses that will come out on the other side will be stronger, especially as we go into this very busy time for us, which happens, as I mentioned, from May to December.
When you told me that your hand sanitizer sales went up like crazy, I thought you were joking. I didn't realize it was.
No, it's real. It's real. No, the thing is, we were doing a number of, we had three brands that we were prospecting for this hand sanitizing business, and basically we had some inventory that we were able to sell very quickly, because obviously there was a great need in the market. But we decided, instead of maximizing on the sales, that we were going to do the same thing. We were going to try and provide value with those items that we had to the customers that were already loyal to us. On the subject of hand sanitizers, actually, I had an interesting call this morning. And we actually are going to go ahead with a larger project, a brand that we're going to import from the US. It's going to be a premium hand sanitizer brand I'm excited to start working with when this is all over. So,
what can be premium about hand sanitizer? Is it the way it protects your hands rather than damaging it through the alcohols?
Oh, it's to do with quality of ingredients. It's to do with the packaging. It's to do with the way the product is positioned, right? So, like, for example, it's funny. This is one of the brands that it's just a brand from another country. But a hand sanitizer, you always expect hand sanitizers to look something like this, right? Yeah. So this lady from the US, she's from Spain originally. She basically had this idea about how to revamp the whole concept, right? So, how can you think about hand sanitizer as, say, not just the normal FMCG good, right? So I'm sure if I was to ask you, what do you think about hand sanitizer? What would you say? Like, what would you think to go and buy if you were to go and buy in Boots or something like this?
Just some alcohol gel.
Right? It's pretty, and the way the bottle looks is pretty similar.
Yeah, standardized, right? Bottle, see-through, quite harsh on the hands.
Yeah. So this lady's idea was to try and see whether she could define a strategy or a product, or create a product where that whole conception was made different. So how can you make it premium? How can you make it something that you would actually feel proud to take out of your handbag or your bag? How can you make it look beautiful so that it can be something that someone can shoot, it could take a photo of and place on Instagram and be proud of that? So it's interesting. So I think her business is going to explode in the next couple of months as we go through this and we emerge from this, and we'll be very happy to partner with this unique brand actually in the future.
Brilliant. How do you think everything that's going on is affecting your life currently at the moment? And how do you see it impacting in the next 3, 6, 12 months?
How's it going to affect my life? So you mean life away from like work, or is there like a specific area of life you're asking about?
Everything. Work is, you're running a business, so work is obviously going to be a big part of that. How do you think your life will be post-COVID?
It's like a event horizon. You know what event horizon means?
Go on.
You're saying it's like in a black hole, the front of the. So we're kind of sidetracking now, but in a black hole, the front of a black hole is called the event horizon, and it's called that because it's the point where light can't escape. Which means that past the event horizon, no one knows. There's no way to know what happens behind the event horizon. Yeah. So maybe I'll use that analogy here, that it's very difficult to know, right? Because first of all, we don't know how long this is going to last for. And at the moment, so saying all that, I'll say that at the moment, we're just taking it day by day. But on the immediate short term, I could say one thing that I've thought about recently is that one thing I guess we both share and we've talked about, and we've done this quite a lot ourselves in groups as well, but I've traveled so much in the last 3 to 4 years. Yeah. And I realized that this year, I last went traveling, actually, I was away over Christmas time to see someone from abroad, like half in a professional capacity, half in a like a personal capacity. And I realized that none of us are going to be traveling for a long time. So that's going to be something that's immediate. And and you and I spoke about this, right? About the beginning of the year, that I think it's, I was planning on doing that a lot more this year, so I could focus a lot more on my work. So that's going to be something that's definitely going to impact. I really, what's interesting is that my office is actually still open. So our office and logistics team are still there, and they're still doing our D2C deliveries. And for that reason, I felt a responsibility to still go into the office. So in this immediate short term, in this last couple of weeks, there hasn't been that much of a change to my routine. And so I've thought about that question, about what's going to change, about how can I use the time more efficiently. But today is actually the first day I'm at home, and it's crossed my mind since. I think I'd like to, I'll answer not exactly the question that you asked me, but I'll say, what would I like to do? Like, what would I like to prioritize? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So things I'd like to do is I'd like to read a lot more. I'd like to take a lot more time. Like I felt that my reading time over the last 4 to 5 months has become more and more compressed. I used to always do in the evening before going to sleep. But like in recent months, I've just felt like that time has evaporated. So I like to do that a lot more. There's a few skills that I'd like to enhance. For example, just a very small thing is I've realized that I need to develop my analytical skills. So I'm planning to do a number of like Excel modeling courses, budget management courses, things like this. And then I feel like you have to ask me this question in a week or so when I've had like a week at home, not being around people all the time, and then I'll be able to answer better. Maybe let me ask you the question. What's going to change for you? Because as far as I know, for your business, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is actually in some ways like the demand could go up in the immediate short term. Or how are you finding it?
So I wouldn't say, we're an online business, right? So we are in many ways protected against these sorts of events. In that we don't have the same issues that you may face, with retail stores being wiped out or anything like that. I mean, the equivalent would be me being a personal trainer still, I was a couple of years ago, and then suddenly having this outbreak, and now you're potentially out of work. I mean, I've seen some personal trainers do some one-to-one sessions in the park, but for the most part, you're going to be out of work unless your client has a home gym. But even then, I just think with the guidelines being given, it's best you're meant to be self-isolating. So personal trainer is going to be pretty much out of business. So it has made me very grateful for the business that we do have and the fact that it is online. I have noticed a very strong sense of community within the RNT groups and clients and team as well. So a very strong sense of community and togetherness, which I'm really enjoying being a part of. And I think with regards to going forwards, there's definitely going to be more focus for people to pay attention to their health, both physically and mentally. But I think as a collective business, this period will show us what's working well for us, what's not working well, what needs to be improved, what needs to be more efficient, and give us all a moment to, again, like yourself, be more strategic about the future, because there are certain things yet to be defined that will come out of this period that will change the way we run the business. I think even though we're an online business, we will be affected because our clients' behaviors will change. And as a result, that will impact the way we serve our clients, if that makes sense.
When you say that, what have you found in this 2 weeks? I know, like, it's amazing, like people posting their videos from home and what they're doing from home, and you guys sending all these workouts at home. What have you found that was an unrealized strength that this situation has brought to the forefront, that you were like, wow, I didn't realize that existed, either in our community, in your community that you've built, or your business, or your team? Or
I think the team's ability to take it head on, take it in their stride, not panic, and just completely own the situation. That's been a massive strength I've noticed. All the coaches have been completely on top of it. The funny thing is this pandemic has coincided with our new intake as well. So we've had a new intake come on board, and at the same time, all our existing clients are pretty much being set up on new plans because everything needs a revamp.
Yeah, sure.
Doubled our workload across the board, but all our I've not heard a single complaint. All the coaches have taken it in their stride. They're embracing the challenge, so that's been a real highlight. I think the other thing is, from a client point of view, it's been that I was expecting more people to say, "I don't know what to do now, but I haven't got a gym." But I've not actually heard.
Clients or
clients. Yeah, I've actually not heard that in many places at all. It's been a case of, all right, the gym's shut. What do we do now? And that shift in mindset and the shift in approach has been I wouldn't say a revelation, but it's been very nice and welcomed. Because I think that's a hallmark of having a growth mindset and being able to adapt to different challenges, and just think, instead of complaining or instead of wondering what you're going to do, or what is the game plan? And
correct me if I'm wrong, but it's interesting. But it feels like your setup from the beginning, it wasn't about personal training and getting better in the gym. It was about being a better version of yourself, right?
Exactly. And this is another thing.
Which does not rely having to go to the gym. Like, it's about the mentality of making sure that you're getting better, that you're taking this as a priority in your life.
Absolutely. I mean, we always say the physical is the vehicle, and that's actually a really good point, because what it's highlighted to a lot of people is that training is only a small facet of the whole journey and the whole ecosystem. There's, outside of that, you've got nutrition, you've got lifestyle, you've got mindset, you've got structure, strategy, systems, your everything. There's so many things.
Tools, right?
It's all little tools, and training is actually only a very small tool of this whole toolbox.
Yeah.
It's just a tool. It's not the whole thing. And I think that's the reason why people have embraced that and just said, okay, there's no gym. What do we do next? We know we need to train in a progressive manner. What do we have available, and how can we do that? The rest will still carry on. You can still eat well. You can still look after your mental health. You can still apply structure to your day, and all these other good things. So you've hit on a perfect point there, in that training was never the core of what we do. And in answer to your question, this has probably highlighted just how small a part of the puzzle it actually is. Whereas before it could have been associated, it's an online fitness company, training is like a big thing. Whereas now it's like, well, actually, it's not really a big thing. And here's another thing that I've learned in the past 2 weeks is that clients, again, I thought clients would worry about what they're going to be training on. Instead, what they wanted was accountability and structure. Those are the two things everyone, myself included, have been craving. And you could probably attest to that as well as a client. Is accountability and structure in a day. All of a sudden, I think you'll probably realize in the next few weeks, is now thrown out the window. And you need to have that accountability, so you don't just snack all day. You don't just become lazy and sit on the couch all the time. You still continue to look after your physical and mental health.
That's interesting. That's an interesting conversation that's come out of this as well. Is that this? I know it fits in with the zeitgeist, but this question of mental health thing as well, right? Yeah. That's something that's interesting that's come out of that. How have you thought about that? I know your routine hasn't disrupted like very much at all, but when you're speaking to your clients about these things, right? Like, as you mentioned, the physical is the vehicle to improve your life from all aspects, right? Has that been a question from some of your clients about how to, look, they're rejigging their priorities? A lot of people have young kids, about how to manage these different things.
So I did a Facebook Live with one of our coaches, Shanita, who is a mother of two. And I wanted her to speak about this because it's a lot easier when you haven't got kids. Now, if you've got
young kids, especially, right?
It's young kids and you're stuck at home and you can't go out and they can't go to school. And now you've got to manage your work as well as homeschooling and all of the other things that you have to do. One of the key points she said was that every day she wakes up, she has a checklist of non-negotiables she has to do. She won't know when she'll necessarily do them, but she'll get them done by the end of the day. And I think that's the key point here, is that you might not be able to have the perfect routine anymore, but if you're doing things most of the time, by the end of the day, you're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because you seem to, and I think most people do, but this idea of structure, like I can tell you, like I've obviously, you know, that I've trained with like indirectly through yourself, through Sham, with you for like a long period of time. But that's been the biggest value from actually having one of your, like a coach, like working with your company, is that just the accountability and the structure. And I know from your personal like life that that's something that you hold as a value, not just for your clients, but this is like something that you're like very like anal about, right? Your structure. And that's something that gives you a lot of value in your day-to-day life as well.
Absolutely. I mean, you must have felt a little bit nervous when you texted me this morning saying, Akash, I need to move the podcast.
No, it was more about, it's funny, but I was like, I need to give it a couple hours. I need to make sure there's advance time, you know?
I saw it and I was like, you know what, I'm going to move this. I'm just going to move it to another date. And I was like, you know what?
Yeah, I was thinking. But I knew there was a pause. There was like an hour pause. And then you called me like 20 minutes before. But I was waiting for everything. I had like I had two options. I knew I would go one or two ways.
So yeah, structure is actually structure is a massive value of mine. And it's an integral part to all of this. And, you won't mind me saying is that, just speaking as a friend point of view, structure is probably not your strong point, right?
No, I agree.
So for you to say structure has given you, what has it given you? And let's talk more broadly here, and we're going to shift gears into potentially fitness, but what's the focus on the physical done for your life? How's the physical been the vehicle and in that respect?
It's a good, when you say about the structure thing, right? It's funny because you and I are kind of different in that way. In some ways we kind of opposite. I actually think about how you structurize your day. And it's something that I've got a lot better at doing myself, for example, for my day, because it's important that I do have at least a quite good level of structure through my day. But the good thing about the fitness is that it enforces, and fitness through the way that you guys do it with regards to the check-in, the number of cardio sessions a week, the steps, all the instruments like we mentioned, right? And if you just do those things and you plot those things over the course of a calendar in a 7-day process, in a 7-day week, it provides it's a skeleton of structure already there. Yeah. And then you can start to add little things to there, like your work around there, your work predominantly, but other social things that you have going on. And the fitness can be the first mover in that example, right? Because I know, for example, this week I have to schedule in the steps, you have to schedule in the 4 workouts, you have to schedule in your 2 or 3 cardio sessions. And that once you've already got that on the calendar, you're using a calendar. You're using that already. So you might as well start adding things to it at the same place. So yeah, for me, the whole experience is just about, the benefit for the experience is just about having a skeleton of structure that's already there, That's
a good differentiator, because some people might listen to this and think, well, Akash, you're just anal about structure. And I probably go the other way, and I try and diarize more than potentially I should. And I've scaled back. I mean, I used to time block every single section of my day.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Sorry?
I'm aware of that.
But I scaled it back to 70 to 80% now. So there's a little bit of a buffer. But what you're saying is, I think, what the bare bones is, and that's essentially having a skeleton. And I think if you can apply a skeleton, that will make such a transformational impact in your life in itself that the rest will follow. And for people in this period of time where their routine is changing, it can be tempting to just create a massive structure and go anal about it. But I think actually, as you're slowing down in this period of time, just going back to that skeleton might be the best thing for you, and just keep stripping it right back to the basics. And that's what we've seen some of our clients embrace as well, is just going back to that skeleton and the core transformation checklist before making things too complicated with it.
So when you say you structurize, you skeletonize, well, not skeletonize, sorry, you calendarize or structurize 70% of your day, what are you doing for the rest? How are you allocating that other free time? Is it something that you still have?
So I time block my leisure time as
free
well.
Time. Yeah.
I have 3 colors on my calendar: blue, green, and yellow. So blue is on the business, things that I do that moves the business forward. Green is more day-to-day tasks. Mm-hmm. And then yellow is things like training, dinners, social time, walks, the time which isn't work, essentially.
And when you said the thing about fitness, right? You said the thing about fitness being the keystone, the first mover that you can then add things to. That's something we just talked about. What do you find can take you off your structure? What can be, or is the idea of living a structurized life, a structurized day, something that's your base modality?
Yeah, I mean, look, if I travel, then I don't have the same structure. But what I do have is transferable rules. So really, this structure, what's the real underlying value of this structure is the rules that underpin it. And those rules can be as simple as I will train in the mornings. I won't look on my phone before 11 a.m., which is why I responded to you late today. It wasn't that I hadn't.
Yeah, I'm aware. I can see that one tick, mate.
Yeah, just hadn't looked at my phone yet. In fact, that's actually one of the things that throws me off my game. If I look on my phone as soon as I wake up, all day I'm in a reactive mode. Everything's thrown off. I've noticed it as I call it the super rule. But I've noticed it as a cascading trigger that if I look on my phone first thing in the morning, I'm reactive, then the whole day just feels off. So that's a big thing I know I must do. The other things are such as simple as eat protein 3-4 times a day. Don't snack in between meals. make sure I hit 10,000 steps a day. That is, for me, steps is another key marker of how well I'm prioritizing my life, myself, things in work. If my steps fall to the wayside, I know I'm probably going to hit burnout soon. So all these little rules, and I call them non-negotiables as well, they're transferable in any environment. And I think that's the key here. It's not trying to live a structured life. It's having rules that are transferable to no matter what environment you're in, what time zone you're in, or whatever you're doing in your day-to-day.
Mm-hmm. And how about scheduling? How do you actually manage, like your calendar is managed on a weekly basis, or you manage on a daily basis? Or
so every week, I mean, if I look at it now, people watching it won't be able to see, but training and walking in the morning at 9 a.m., that's blocked in as a repeat, 6 days a week is a repeat. And then walk in the afternoon, again, repeat. And then dinner at 6:45, again, just to remind myself that's enough. Like there's no more work after that, is a repeat. And nothing's booked after that. And then the rest is how I just fill it in according to the weekly rhythm of the business. So the rhythm is there, but the yellow is what I plot first, the personal. Like you said, you lay the skeleton out, and then after that I fill the gaps. And
that's something that you would do, say, on a Saturday and a Sunday, or on a Sunday, which is not one of the 6 days, right? Sunday is the day that you don't.
So I work on Sundays. I don't work on Saturdays. Saturday's my day off. What I actually do this before I close off on Friday. So so
it's blocked in your calendar. It's a weekly thing that you'll plan the whole week.
Exactly. So Friday I try and finish at 4 p.m. But I will make sure by the time I finish at 4 p.m. I've booked in my whole next week, so I know what I'm doing. Yeah. What I used to do is I used to wait till Monday morning, and that would just fill me with anxiety, right? Then I moved it to Sunday evening, and even then, all weekend I was thinking, make sure I need to do that next weekend. I need to do that next week. Need to do that next week. And then I just thought, let me just bring it the week before. And that's been a game changer. So and I finish on Friday and I know what I'm doing next week, and there's no worry. I can just relax on the weekends.
In a micro sense, I find the same thing. Just to share my side is that if I have to, I have to check the calendar and reschedule things before I go to sleep for the next day, for the following days.
Yeah.
If you try and do that in the morning, it's never good. For me, it never works.
No.
Like you're always in a reactive mode from that way on, and it's not going to work.
So I'll do the same as you, is in that I'll do it on a weekly basis, and then at the end of the working day, I'll just review what the next day is, and just there's always a little bit of shuffling that needs to be done, right? So I'll just do that shuffle before I go to sleep.
And how you find, if you don't, I don't mean to take off track too much, but if it's okay, how you find? I saw your new home office setup. How are you finding that? Like obviously now you have experience of working from home, right?
Yeah.
So sorry.
Go on.
Yeah, the advice that you're sharing is not necessarily like you're sharing advice that you've practiced and that you've learned over the experience of doing yourself for however many years. And now you've got your own home office set up. So you could share as well about.
Yeah, I've been working from home for 3 years now, every single day. I've never had an office. So for me, this is nothing new. And all the article I put out about working from home, and the webinar I did as well, that's all based on my own experience of I would like to say being quite productive when working from home.
And if you don't mind me asking, could you tell me like the main tenets of that? Like maybe, again, you said the idea about the principles or the key rules associated with that.
Yeah, I think boundaries is a big one, like creating boundaries, in that you need to try and separate work and play. If I have a specific spot on the sofa that I write in the morning on, I won't do anything else on that sofa. But for some reason, I like to write in the morning on a sofa as opposed to a desk.
It's like a specific space on the sofa, or it's the whole sofa?
No, the specific space. Specific.
Oh, space. Yeah. Do you leave like a sheet on there saying this is Akash's safe space?
Someone else can sit there if they want, but I won't sit there any other time in the morning except for when I'm writing on it.
That's like a hallowed space then for you.
So then when I watch TV later on in the day, in the evening, I'll sit on another part of the sofa.
So what happens if someone comes along and sits there?
Well, that hasn't happened yet.
You need to be careful, mate. You need to cordon it off.
So little things like that just creates a few more boundaries within work and play. I think boundaries is the big one, because otherwise it can just blur into one long work day from the minute you wake up to the minute you sleep, which, if anyone running their business is pretty much what's going on in your head is pretty much work anyway. I don't know about you.
Yeah. It doesn't turn off, right? It's kind of hard to turn off. Yeah, it's kind of hard, right? To turn off, to stop.
Yeah. So let's go back to your fitness journey and I'd like to, before we take it right back, because obviously there's a lot of good stories there. Let's carry on about how the physical journey right now, the transformation that you're on at the moment, how is that helping you right now?
I like that. I'm always on.
No, the reason why I said always, I meant to say journey.
Is that like a slight there, man?
No, what I want to get from that is obviously I think your journey's evolved. Like, when we first started training, very much about the aesthetics and getting out of, not being the skinny guy anymore. And transformation.
What's the term you like? Skinny fat, right? Skinny fat. What's it? Good fat or skinny fat? Oh, skinny fat. Okay.
We were both skinny fat when we started, right? So
yeah, you're a little bit more than that.
Yeah, definitely. That was the place it started from. But now it's very much evolved to something different. Talk about the evolution. When I started, I was just literally, I went to university and I shared, I didn't room, but Sham, the famous Escort Visuals, your photographer, best case study, I think, today. But he basically was in the flat opposite me. And I basically asked him one day, he started training with you. And we started to go together. And then basically fast forward, we spent 3 years living together. We trained together every day. It was so much fun. So many experiences through that. And of course, in that beginning stage, it was trying to move. It was just trying to be able to have a better body, like your university. So it's like a nice place to do that. You've seen the photo. You've unlawfully taken that photo and used it for your own business without paying me any commission. So we all know the story about that. But since it's evolved through the years from then. It's something that I feel it's like and we go back to the same term. It's like a non-negotiable for me. Maybe not the whole aspect, but just training itself it's a refuge. It's an energy restoration. It's a place where you feel that, especially without your phone, if you're just listening to music, you feel like you can have better ideas when you're training in the gym. It's a habit that I think it's a habit that has enhanced my life in ways that I can't describe, right? Just from the simple fact of having a refuge, having a place to go to, having a physical activity to do, when things are not going right, or you want to take your mind off something. The effect, I think, has been so large that I can't even put a finger on where it has been incredibly effective, but in all aspects, in my confidence, in my operational efficacy, in my in everything. You have to ask me a more specific question, I guess, because it's too. And the thing is, I came into training in a very formative time in my life. So when I was 18, I started training, and then it's really carried me on into adulthood. So it's something now that it's going to be in my life, whether I like it or not. It's part of my life. It's a very beneficial, positive part of my life. That's how I describe it. And from there, so many things have come. The physical is the vehicle, like you said, right? Like the mission statement for your company is. But I've had wonderful, amazing friendships through this whole physical journey, right? I've had amazing experiences through this whole the journey of the gym and training. It's been a huge part of my life. Well, it's essentially how we met.
Yeah, it's like the crux of that relationship group, right? My friendship with Sean, with Gaj, and then through to you, and then it's the cornerstone of the whole thing, right?
Absolutely. And for the listeners who might be wondering what Dhinil got up to when he was 18, he was the victim of many of my experiments back in the day. So
no, I think experiments is probably a stretch. I think what you did was probably illegal, mate, because you would tell Sean, and then he would enforce it on me. Actually, I didn't prepare anything for this call, but I prepared because there's so much stuff that occurred over the course of 3 years with regards to prescriptive training. That, as I don't know whether your clients will be listening to this or will be listening to this, but I would say that you have to have a big. I'm thankful that Akash's educational phase was in those 3 years when we went to university, and we were the only his quote unquote clients then, and that you managed to get the stage when Akash has passed on to. He's become a master of his craft, and now he knows where he wants. Because I tell you what, we went through some experiments. Should we list some of them?
Go ahead, yeah. So let me just give you some background. While you're thinking about it, let me give you some background. So I started training when I was 16, 17. For the first 2 years, I was just experimenting myself. And then Sham was my first unofficial client when I turned 18 and he was 18. And I decided to just use him as my guinea pig for everything I was doing on myself. And I thought, let me just see if it works with him. And then Sham and Dhinil met each other at university a year later. And I thought, now I've got 2 people to try on. And then they brought into their group Gaj. And I was like, okay, there's 3 now. So if anything I do, it's validated by at least 3 people.
Yeah, but Gaj was a bad client though. I think his was a bad experiment.
Yeah. So go on. You've had some time to think.
Yeah, I had to think about it. But there's so many that stick out. The first one is, I think for 2 years, at least a year, you made us eat red meat and nuts for breakfast, right? So I think it was something that I think Charles Poliquin, he passed away, unfortunately, but he said on his blog that the goal, like you had to start your day with some sort of fat and some sort of protein. So I was eating, and bear in mind, I was a skinny 17, 18-year-old kid. I was eating sirloin steak and macadamia nuts for breakfast. And bear in mind, I was in a household and I come from a Gujarati household. So I was doing this at home as well. And first of all, I don't think it was beneficial. And second of all, I got some very strange conversations that sprouted out of that. We lived in our second year with 4 girls, I think, 4 girls, 3 of whom were vegetarian. And one of the other things you asked us to do, and Sham was very enthusiastic about this, was that I know omega-3s is an important thing, and you ask your clients to take it now. But just a clarification is, I'm sure you guys have been asked to take maybe 3 grams. 3 grams is like 3 capsules. We were asked at one stage to take 30 grams of omega-3. You can't get that in the tablets, which means we were buying these like canisters of omega-3 from haddock and salmon. And the thing is, this stuff used to leak. So we would drink it, fine, maybe we would throw up once out of 5 times. But then this fish oil used to leak all over our kitchen. And bear in mind, 3 of the girls were vegetarians that we were living with. And this didn't go down well at all. There was another one where L-glutamine, which is an amino acid, where I think there was a cycle when, and I have a funny feeling this was done just to me. It wasn't to Sham as well. But they asked me to take 20 grams of L-glutamine in my post-workout shake. And I remember drinking this, and within 3 seconds, I was in the gym bathroom. All that glutamine, all the protein, everything that was in the shaker was all over the sink in the gym as well. So, and then we went through this process of there was like this ego about at the beginning of this whole process about who can have the most disgusting flavored protein. Because apparently if you had unflavored protein, it was more beneficial than if you had like chocolate flavored or strawberry flavored, which was disgusting. And then the worst was those unflavored BCAAs. So I know now you can get some nice tasting BCAAs, but we used to have this unflavored BCAAs, which I don't know if any of you or if any of you have had a chance to drink this unflavored BCAAs, but this thing tastes terrible, like horrible.
Yeah, I remember.
And every time we used to buy this stuff, we used to buy like crates of coconut oil, coconut water, that Vita Coco coconut water, because the only way you could get this thing down is take a swig, keep it in your mouth, then drink this coconut water until you've diluted this BCAAs and then chug it down. But
oh man,
my Lord.
You bring back memories. You know, with the fun flavor thing, I had this like fear of sweeteners and any coloring. So I said, look, we're not doing any flavored proteins, any flavored amino acids, anything. We did unflavored whey with a bit of glutamine, creatine, and I think that was it for post workout. And during training, it was unflavored BCAAs.
That thing was horrible.
And sometimes we even did a fate. I don't know if you did the cycle of a bit of leucine as well.
Oh yeah, leucine. I remember leucine.
A bit of leucine powder. That was like, it just made it into battery acid. I genuinely don't know how we did it.
And then you had this big phase. I don't know if it was you or Sham or it was a collaboration or it was you telling him, but there was this thing where it was about the lean bulk. Do you remember the lean bulk? So it was this idea. So before Akash had this idea about calories in, calories out, it was all about how can you put on muscle size and stay lean at the same time? So during this process of the lean bulk, we were asked to do, like, our calories weren't high. So we'd be eating just 3 small meals a day. And in the morning, I don't know if any of you know about German volume training, but we would wake up at university in our second year, like 6 o'clock in the morning, to go to the gym to do 10 sets of 10 by 10 squats and 10 by 10, I think, leg curls. And you weren't allowed to eat anything. There was nothing to eat before. There was nothing to eat afterwards. For some reason, there was a day on Friday where you have to drink half a pint of like cream or something. Do you remember this? I don't know where the cream came from.
That was Sean's one. He I think that was his experiment. That wasn't mine.
Yeah. So this whole thing. So and the thing is that there was nothing to eat. So nobody was recovering anytime soon.
Oh man!
And I remember literally for I think it was a year. There was probably, I couldn't walk maybe 4 out of 7 days of the week. I literally was unable to walk in a straight line for 4 out of 7 days of the week because I was training too hard, wasn't eating enough. I was eating all this nonsense like this cream. And the funny thing about this cream is these guys, you drink the cream. There was one day where you drink the coffee with half a cup of cream in it. And then everyone would vanish for like half an hour because everyone was running to their toilet. And apparently this was necessary because it was helping up athletic performance. But, oh my God. There's so many others. You came as well a couple of times, right? Yeah. I think you ran away. There was a couple of times you came to our place and you saw.
I saw the toilet, yeah.
Yeah, and then that was the last of that, right?
Man, imagine if I was giving this sort of advice now, I think we wouldn't even be recording this podcast. We'd be out of business.
That's crazy.
Those years, like without those years, I look back and like we laugh now, but without those years, I don't think like you said at the start of it, we were unlucky or unfortunate to go through that. But at the same time, I don't think we'd be here where we are now having this chat if it wasn't for those years.
It's experiences.
All my mistakes and all the experiments, got them out of the way early and young. And loads of lessons from that. And you just learn a lot of what BS was and what things were actually working. And I look back and I think, imagine if we actually because we used to train like animals. That's the one thing I don't think we did wrong. We used to train like animals. Imagine if we actually fueled our training with the right, like we ate like animals as well. We like the
Sham says that all the time. He says that all the time.
Yeah. So that's probably like a regret in our training careers, if we were to look back. But yeah, a lot of funny stories there that we could probably talk all day about.
It's funny. During that period of time, there was times that the only thing enough that I remember, we were getting so hungry in the day, and it was progressive. It was like for a year. So there was times when like one of us would just flip out. And like one day you found one person has taken a block of cheese, which is the only thing in the fridge, and eaten the whole thing. Because there was like a whole period of a year. There was calorie deficit for a whole year.
Yeah. Bizarre. Yeah.
But anyway, that's how you got your process so nailed down now, right? Because you had experience and all these mistakes were made.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mistakes that you inflicted on other people were made as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I talk about in the book. In the book, what I've said is one of the reasons why my actual drive and why for the book is my career is split in two parts, right? If I look at it.
Yeah.
There's like a phase of 2010 to 2014, which covers a lot of those experimental years. And then from like 2015 to 2000 to now, and the first like 4 or 5 years is where I made loads of mistakes and loads of bad decisions and bad advice. But at the same time, I know a lot of people still follow that advice, and not from me, but just generally, like people are still doing that. Whether it comes to yo-yo dieting or rebounds or dieting all the time, all these sorts of things that we did for a long time. And one of the reasons why I want to write this book is just to make sure that no one makes the mistakes that I made with myself and with you guys and the clients. Because now that like you said, we've got the process so nailed down now. It's a methodology, whereas before it was just haphazard, going all over the place. And I actually featured you in the book, as you know. And the area I featured you in was the
the topic of program hopping. So if you probably remember that every 3 to 4 weeks, you'd get a new program. You remember that?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So there was a new program, new phase.
Well, I hope when you mention, right, it's not that I said I was program hopping. Program hopping was bestowed upon me.
But no, my point in the book is that that's all you knew. You didn't know. You thought that was the way forward, right?
Yeah, sure. I was the patient looking for the doctor's
exactly. So I mentioned in the book that I was giving new people programs every 4 weeks, and then I decided not to. And I was like, and I watched a couple of people getting really good results from not changing their program all the time. Then I tried it with you, and I was like, oh, maybe I should have done that all along. Just giving him a program that you could actually make progress on, rather than every 4 weeks changing the tune and just battering him to another method. So yeah, that was
interesting. That's why it works so perfectly now, right? Because you've had that, you've made those mistakes, and I think that's kind of it's hard to get experience it's hard to know something without experiencing yourself, right?
Yeah.
And going through the trials and tribulations. So in any field, right?
Absolutely. What do you think? Like, if we just shift back to your business, what have some of the similar experiences you may have had, or have you been lucky to bypass that in the time you've been working at the place you are?
In terms of mistakes?
Yeah, mistakes and experiments.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Probably not comparable in.
No, but like I guess a lot of it's like, God, just so many things. I can't a perfect example is just, I was thinking about the other day because we were doing appraisals, is that, don't you hire good people, right? For them to do their job, right? Don't try and micromanage, right? My job as the leader of the organization, as the manager, is to basically set the priorities, set the goals, set the KPIs, provide the instruments, provide the coaching, and allow people to get on with their role, right? And if then they don't perform, then there's a problem. But your job is to allow people, to give people the game to play, to enable to achieve their goals.
Yeah.
And then they will build the business themselves as part of the organization. Another thing, I think you and I have talked about this as well a lot, or back and forth maybe over the years, but just the idea about specificity, like be very clear about what you're trying to achieve. And especially from an organizational point of view, because that's so key, because if people don't know what they're expected to do or expected to achieve, or what their KPIs are, or what they're going to be measured on, then motivation can dip. Then they can feel that they're not performing well. And then then a lot of issues can arise from them. Like, clarity is very important, and specificity. Like, don't try and broaden your range too much. It's not that. I guess it's just the way of the world at the moment. If you are in the Renaissance period, maybe it's a different thing, but you have to be very clear about what specific area you're trying to target, what specific thing you're trying to do really well. Because unfortunately, we can't do everything well. You have to be very specific about what you're doing. And then making sure that the people that you have around you in your organization have different skill sets, right? Different types of personalities. Like, you want to have some variance in the people that are combining to form your business or running your business. Because if you have too many people with the same background, with the same experience, with the same vision on life, you're going to get the same answers, you know? So, and it's also more interesting as a manager when you have different people with different skill sets, with different ideas, because the answers will be more interesting. There'll be more interesting discussion for everyone. The goal will be more interesting for everyone. And then another thing is just what we were just talking about, is about scheduling, about being very clear with like time, allocation of time. And that's still something I'm trying to get better with. And I think I'm getting better with. And that's why I've asked you about that as well in the past, about how you do it in this conversation, I guess, as well. There's so many things. And even in this last 2 weeks, just thinking about, obviously there's your day to day, but don't lose sight of the bigger picture as well, right? About what are the long-term goals? What are the long-term implications of what you're doing? And what you asked me this question a little bit earlier in our conversation, but you said about what maybe will be the biggest changes. And I think that having this short period of time where things really aren't going on in the same way that they were before, like, it's been very valuable to have this time to think about more strategic long-term implications, right? So it's, I think moving forward, I think I'll make a concerted effort to schedule that time in the week moving forward. But in terms of mistakes, yeah, of course, I'm still making loads of mistakes if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah,
but hopefully the goal is you don't make. I think for everyone, the goal is that you don't make the same mistakes that you made before, right? It's that you progress. And maybe, going back to your question about the fitness thing, is maybe you'll even think in 10 years' time that maybe some of the things you're doing right now, whether it's your business, whether it's to do with fitness, to do with your personal fitness, weren't the right ways to go about things.
Yeah.
That maybe it was worthwhile iterating and doing something new.
Absolutely. I mean, if we didn't think like that, then there's something wrong. So hopefully,
if you're growing, you have to do that, right?
Exactly. Hopefully in 5 years' time, we're looking back and we're laughing at the 5 phases. Like, what the hell is this guy talking about all that time?
Absolutely.
It has to evolve. It has to grow all the time. But my point was more around the wacky sort of experiments that you may have tried out before. But,
with work.
Yeah. But
wacky meaning what?
Oh, the equivalent of giving someone unflavored amino acids and no food.
Oh yeah, like we used to. A few years ago, we used to spend. Like a perfect example is from a marketing expenditure point of view. We used to spend inordinate amounts of expenses, percentages of our budgets, on trade shows and things like that, and it was a lot of money. And we realized after the first couple of shows that this is not going to work. That we're not getting a benefit from it. But still, we managed to fill a whole year of events associated like this. And now looking back, you realize that what's the point? Like you have to think about marketing is meant to encourage your sales, right? So be careful about where you allocate that budget. Cash flow. I mentioned to you already, like so many businesses suffering because of cash flow. That's something that we've really only paid serious attention to in the last couple of years. And that's been really valuable in a time like this because you realize where your cash position is. So that's just learnings all the time.
Speaking on cash flow, apparently the average restaurant has approximately only 2 weeks of like working capital.
Yeah, it's because their costs are so high, right? Their running costs, their staffing costs, rent costs, fresh produce, inventory.
Insane, right?
That's going to be a very sad thing. Like I don't know how many of them are going to survive like coming out of this because they're going to be shut for 2 months. Like how many can really survive?
Minimum. Let's finish up on a quick rapid fire, which you sent me earlier.
All right, then. Right?
Wanted to go through. I don't know if it was pre-prep, so I don't know how rapid fire they'll be, but let's see. What's your favorite book?
It's interesting. I spent Christmas abroad, and I gave favorite books as gifts. That was what was allocated. So favorite book or favorite books or?
Yeah. So what did you give? That would be a good one. What did you give there?
I gave 5 books. I gave, there's a guy called Sam Harris. He's basically a neuroscientist, and he's very big in the world of translating Buddhism to the West. And he has this great book that's been a really important book for me called Waking Up. And I gave that. I gave another book by, there's a guy called John Kabat-Zinn, who's a very famous Buddhism teacher in the East. He came up with this methodology called mindfulness-based stress reduction, which I also gave on the same topic. There's a novel called have you heard of The 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez?
No, I'm not. No.
It's a very famous book in the magic realism genre by a Colombian author who won a Nobel Prize for this specific piece of work. That's an amazing novel. I don't know if you read novels. I'm not sure if you.
I haven't read a fiction novel in a long time.
So that's a great book. It has a really interesting perspective and sense of time running through the novel. It's a nice novel to read, even if you're not someone that reads fiction. I gave also, I don't know if you know who Neil Gaiman is.
I don't know.
He's a very famous British author, like a children's author, but also do you know there's a TV show called American Gods? It's advertised on, I think it's on Netflix, Amazon Prime or something. So that was a novel by him. I gave that book as well. And then I think I might have given the biography of Leonardo da Vinci, that Walter Isaacson book. It's like, he wrote the biographies of like Steve Jobs, of Albert Einstein, of Benjamin Franklin. So that's a big book. So I remember that one as well. I gave that one.
Awesome. What's your favorite movie?
God, that's too broad a question. I'll tell you, instead of answering that question.
You don't need to give me like 10.
Yeah, fine. Point taken, mate. Point taken. I'll tell you a good film that I just saw recently that's very topical. Is there's a film called Contagion I don't know if you've heard about it. It's this film that came out in the aftermath of the SARS epidemic in like 2006, 2007. And it's interesting because it really follows a lot of what's happening now with this coronavirus pandemic. And it's got amazing cast. It's really well acted, really well directed. I think Steven Soderbergh directed it, who directed Ocean's 11, and it's got a huge cast. So it's well worth watching. I think it's like the number 1 film on Amazon Prime now, but it's very interesting.
Awesome. And your favorite travel destination?
Well, I don't know why you're smiling at me then, mate.
I'm just smiling.
Of the ones we've gone to together, or just generally?
No, just general.
I went to over December, I went to Sochi, which is in the southern part of Russia on the border to Georgia. And it's a very, very beautiful place. You basically can see the Caucasus Mountains behind you, and everywhere you are, you can see the Black Sea, which is it's very scenic, very beautiful place. And it's not very touched, I'd say, by Western people. I think I was probably the only Asian person that went there for the last 10 years. So, wow. That's an exaggeration, of course, but like it's a very beautiful place. So that's worth checking out at some point.
Amazing. Do you have any parting words for anyone on their transformation journey right now?
I would say you like really, you have to, this is something that you have to lean into because let me try and phrase this as best as I can. I would say lean into the whole project. Like try and, if you're going to make the commitment of paying the money to Akash and the business, I would say commit to it 100%, because you may think before that you want to lose X amount of pounds or get into better shape for your holiday, and that's why you're paying the money. But I guarantee you that as you go through the process, and if you commit to the process, and if you stay true to the process, and you've got wonderful custodians and coaches, and I can attest to this myself, because I know Akash has gone through all the years of experience and experimentation to make sure that the process is really nailed down. If you really commit to the process, you will find benefits from the process that far outweigh what you initially thought the benefits that you were going to get. And they will surprise you along the way. And I would just say, if you're going to make the commitment, lean in and do it 100%, stay committed and get to the end. And then have a real think of how many things came up in that time that you never thought would come up. And I guarantee you that'll be a long list. And I would say that I can personally attest to this, that you guys, whoever you are, to start the experience, that even if you're a beginner, if you are a beginner, let's say if you are a beginner, you're in wonderful hands, because this business that these guys have built, that Akash has built, is the values are the values that he associates himself with, which are integrity, which are making sure that the client is getting the best possible service. And you're in wonderful hands. You have wonderful custodians to your aspirational dream of getting into better shape. So those are the two things that I'd say.
Amazing. Thank you for those kind words. And also just thank you for trusting me with all the advice I'll give you.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have trusted you so much, because there may be long-term damage from those omega-3s, right?
Be one of the first guinea pigs, and always a big support of everything we do at RNT. And Dhinil's actually been working with Nathan for a while now. So he's dabbled his hands in different areas of RNT and continues to do so. So thank you for all your support over the years. Just to finish up on, where can people find you and find out more about your products, find out more about your business, and if they want to get in touch to buy anything from your stores?
Yeah, sure. Our website is www.swisscell.co.uk, which is swisscell.co.uk. You can send, like, I don't know if you have interest in, the products that we sell are high-end skincare products, high-end dental care products, high-end bath and body products. So if you want some more information about that, you can see the website there. And for myself personally, you can, I guess you can, maybe you can. You don't need to. Yeah, I don't know what the question you're asking, but that's what I meant. Is if people want to buy, if they want to find out more about Swisscell, where do they go to? But we'll put that in the show notes in the podcast. So, can I ask one question? Just one last question before we go. The whole thing that you asked about this. So much of what you said from the beginning is about find your why, right? And that's what I was trying to relay in the final comments there, is that the why may be more once you actually go through the process. What is your why?
For continuing to train?
Not continuing to train, for the business. What is your why for the business?
Ooh, good question. I think there's multiple layers to it. On a personal level, if I talk on a personal level, the why, it's something I touched on in the podcast at the end of 2019. And I just said, for me, business, similar to training, is just a vehicle towards self-mastery, in that there's always new challenges, always new ways to grow. And it's my way of developing myself into a better person at all times. Because I think the lessons you learn in business are transferable in all areas of your life. And it's my creative outlet to becoming better. And I say creative outlet because as you know, I enjoy writing, I enjoy recording podcasts, and that's a method of creativity. And through that creativity, which now links into the company why, is not only satisfying my own needs to get better as a person and get better as a business owner, but also to then transform others and to provide a platform that facilitates transformation and allows people to use the physical as a vehicle to transform their lives for the better.
Thank you. Well, you have done such a service through this whole, and you continue to do such a service to so many people, and we're all very grateful for you. And long may it continue, man, because you're doing such a great job. So, and you can see every time you're growing, you're developing, you're building yourself. So thank you for all that you put into the world and that you continue to do. And please carry on for as long as you possibly can.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Dhinil.
Thank you so much, man. Take care.
Thank you so much for being here today on this episode of RNT Fitness Radio. I'd love for you to do a quick little favor for us. Please head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating, leave a comment, and share it with your family and friends. If you're interested in learning more about how to transform your body and positively change your life, go to www.rntfitness.com and explore all our free content on offer. Thank you.